Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Welcome to the Mental Health Warriors. I'm Annette Chappie, and I am the Mental Wellness Warrior, previously known as the Power Hour of Self-Care. I have switched my title because my heart and my desire and passion is to promote, not only ending the stigma around mental illness, but moving from mental illness into the realm of mental health, and then moving from the realm of mental health into mental wellness. And so my guests are going to be incredible this year, lots of sharing on incredible topics that are so profoundly out there affecting all our lives. And my guest today is no different. So sit back and I will introduce him shortly after our introduction. Welcome back. And here is my guest. And he's named himself Miracle Mike McHale. Oh, I probably said that wrong, didn't I?
No, you
No,
said it perfectly. Yeah, Miracle Mike McHale. Yeah,
with you
yeah.
beforehand, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get it wrong. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. It's a little chilly here in LA. It's 65 degrees, so burr.
It's balming compared to where I am here in Canada.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm doing
So,
great. Thanks for having me. I
yeah.
just want to thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're so very welcome. I'm glad Adam connected us. For our
Absolutely.
viewers who don't know, Adam is our founder of the Mental Health Warriors. And I have been doing the Power Hour of Self Care previously for about, I'd say, 9 months now. And I wanted your topic today is one that is so profoundly needed to share about because A, it affected my life. So I'm going to make this
Mhm.
about me. And B, it affects millions of people worldwide, not
Yeah.
only here in Canada and United States, but not only men, but women, both sexes suffer from sexual abuse. And
Hmm.
you have come on to share about your story. And I'm really looking forward to hearing the details of what you care to share. And
Absolutely.
help me get some clarity, help viewers get some clarity on how men are affected. And with the statistics I looked up and things, it's pretty bad. Like,
Yeah.
it's really horrible for what we go through, what we have to struggle with, and everything. So, tell me a little bit first about yourself, Mike. What do you do, and what brought you here today?
I live in Los Angeles. I have a company and I do interactive educational mystery shows for children. So I've trained almost 1 million children how to become spy kids. And I use reading and writing and spelling and counting. And it's very, very fun. And I have a great time doing it. And I just celebrated my 28th year. I started my company February 15th, called Mysteries by Mike, and now I'm doing a lot of it virtually as well. So that's really great. And I just published my first children's book called Dino Dogs, about dogs that turn into dinosaurs and they help save the world. So it's
I've
really great. And I'm an actor and a writer out here in LA, of course. Yeah.
well, I remember you sharing the Dino Dogs part with me when we were introduced, and I thought that was
Yes.
fascinating. And
Yes. Yeah.
cool,
Um,
very
I
cool.
It's really fun and it's had a great response. The book just came out recently, so I'm just getting it out there now and doing the fun marketing and doing readings. And The kids are loving it. I have an amazing illustrator, and it's really, really fun and wonderful, and it's exciting. It's very exciting. It's all moving forward. So, yeah. And I moved out here
Congratulations
from
on
Boston. I'm originally from the Boston area, a town called Woburn. Shout out to Woburn, my tanners. That's
that.
our logo. Yeah, I love my little town of Woburn, Mass. Yeah.
Nice. By the way, viewers, if you're watching, we're very welcome to questions, and we'll answer them as best as possible. We'll put your questions on the bottom to display it if you have one, and feel free to communicate with us. So, wow, being a sexual abuse survivor myself, I would love to hear a little bit more about your story, as much as you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, now I'm okay with talking about it more. It was hard. And, I think with men, like we were talking earlier about, the stigma of this with men, it's it's really embarrassing, and it's a little shameful to actually discuss this and talk about it. And all I can say is just talk to at least one person about it. You don't have to tell the world, like, like I am right now, but just find one person that you trust to talk to about it. But so I grew up in Woburn. I lived in this new housing project called Spring Court Extension, and my mother and I lived with her mother, my grandmother, my nana, and my grampy. And I had two uncles that lived there as well. One that was close to my age, one that was much older, and everything was great. And then right after I turned 7, my the older uncle, he started to like do weird things to me and touch me inappropriately, and at first it was kind of like playful kind of thing, and then it got to the point of he would have me come into his bedroom and he would make me do things to him that I are just gross when I think about it right now. And it just I just yeah, it just makes me feel really dirty. And he would tell me if I said anything to anyone, he would kill my mother, he would kill my dog, and he would hurt my nana. And this went on for 2 years, from age 7 to 9. And I had nowhere to go. I had nothing to do. I had no one to talk to about it, because he threatened to, and he was a big guy. He was kind of a big guy, and he threatened to kill my mother. So what am I going to do? Who am I going to talk to? And I think that's when my imaginary friend also popped up, just to talk, talk to, and get closer to God, and just really, like protect my mother, protect my nana, protect my dog. And I was terrified. And I know that looking back after we had our conversation this past week, I thought about it more, and it really did have a huge effect on me growing up. I'm going to start crying here in a minute, but for those who know me, when I was growing up, like in elementary school, I was extremely introverted. I would say boo. I mean, I barely said anything. I kept my face in a book. I got, great grades. I was always getting A's and everything. But I was terrified to talk to anyone, because what if it came out? And then what if he kills my mother? I mean, it's like, this is like really hard for a little kid to wrap his head around, because I think it's real. I think he's really going to hurt my mom and my nana and my dog, and it's just so warped. So I went through that. It stopped I think he must have moved out maybe at that point, or I think he joined the army. I know he was in the armed services. And so he left the picture. And then
Yeah.
I still never talked about it again, terrified that my mother was going to get hurt, die. And then I went away to college, and I came back. I was 20 now. I came back, everyone's all this like talking's going on, blah, about my uncle. And I won't say his name. I don't want to disclose his name, but everyone's talking about him and, it's injustice, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what is going on? And my mother told me that he was being accused of molesting an autistic 13 or 14-year-old boy. He was driving a taxi and driving autistic children to school. And he was being accused by this autistic boy of sexual molestation. And the whole family is like, no, 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 he would never do that. He would never do that. And something, oh my God, I can feel it now. I mean, something inside of me just like exploded. And I just said, yes, he would, because he did it to me. And the whole family was like, what? Like, it was just like, because I barely said anything. I never spoke. And I was so angry and so upset. And I burst out and I started crying. And I said, he did it to me. For 2 years, he did it to me. And my family was like, what the hell is going on? And so we talked about it. I told them exactly what happened. And my one uncle who is in Georgia, who's like, he's my favorite uncle, but don't have uncles. But he was so infuriated. He was like, I'm going to effing kill him. I don't know if I can swear, but he was so angry. He wanted to kill him for putting me through this and like literally ruining my childhood in many ways. And he was so angry. The whole family was angry. And when it came time for the court date, nobody like stood up for him because I had come out finally of my sexual abuse closet and told my story. And I did it because I didn't want him to do it to anyone else. And I felt really bad that I hadn't spoken up before and he got to do it to somebody else. I don't know how many other kids he did it to. And he ended up getting, he got not accused, but he got sentenced. He went to jail for this for 17 or 18 years. And so he got justice. I mean, justice was definitely served. And the interesting thing is that the only people that visited him while he was in prison was my Nana and me. I would go with her on many occasions to go and visit him because as a Christian, I am a Christian. I'm a born again Christian gay man. And a lot of people don't like that phrase, but too bad because I love Jesus with all my heart. I still do. And I went to visit him. I let him know that I forgave him but I would never forget. And I let him know that I loved him. And I would bring him, like a little TV for his room. I would help him out, like if he needed money. I just wanted to be there and let him know that he was forgiven and he wasn't alone. So, and then just time went on, and then he got out. And then the crazy thing is, and I don't know if because I think my uncle down in Georgia might be listening right now, but the day that my mother had passed, we buried her. He called from prison and he said, Michael, I'm sorry about your mama. And he said, I said, thank you, uncle. And he said, I don't mean to intrude, but can I borrow $100? He's asking me on the day I bury my mother if he can borrow money from me. I'm like, you know what? No, I'm going to pass the phone to somebody else. Thank you. Goodbye. It was just like, ay, ay, ay. And I have not seen him like for years and years and years. And I know he had tried to contact me a couple of times, and I was like, no, I don't want to have a relationship with him. I love him, but I can't. It just reminds me. I see it. I can still see it in my head now, the things he did to me.
Right. And
I didn't want to have that relationship. He kept trying to friend me on Facebook, and I kept saying, what? He's a child, he went to jail for it. He shouldn't even have an account on Facebook. And I kept telling Facebook this, and they're like, show us the proof. And I did. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do. I'm like, yes, there is. You can get him off of Facebook. And they let him keep having an account on there. And when you're accused of molesting a child, you are not supposed to have an account on any social media, period. It's ridiculous that he even had it. Um, and then I find out years later that he actually did do this to a very dear friend of mine, a woman that I grew up with. She's a couple of years younger than me, and she was 13, 14, and he had molested her as well. And we had a conversation about it, and it was very painful. And she still remembers it like it was yesterday. It's just something that we don't, we can't forget it. We can't forget the visual of it and that moment and how it felt and just the horror of it. Like when you really realize like what he's actually doing, it's like, this isn't right. What are you doing? This feels really weird. This isn't right that you're doing this to me. And I remember that moment when it happened. It was just like, no, but again, I had to protect my mother because he was going to kill her. There was a
Yeah.
constant threat for 2 years while he was living in that house, that he was going to kill my mother or hurt my nana. And so what was I supposed to do? I was all alone. And I mean, today there's so many outlets where kids can go to, and they can, you know, they can say something to someone. But I mean, I would go into the bathroom when I was in school. I would go into the bathroom because that was like my only alone time, and just talk to God and ask him for help and ask him to, please bless my mother and protect my mother and protect my nana. And the kids were like, oh my God, I think he's crazy in there. And I was just in there praying because that was the only place I had to be
Yeah.
alone for a minute. But apparently I wasn't alone. So again, he reached out to me, and then I talked to my friend Allison Angram. I don't know if you know who she is. She was on a show called Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was Nellie.
What role
Nellie.
did she play?
She was the mean one. She was the mean.
Oh, I know. Okay,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I want to connect her with you because she also went through this as a child, and she actually goes out and raises money for, to help children who have been sexually abused as a child. And she was infuriated when she found out that Facebook kept letting them on. It's like, what are you doing? If you can you get one thing right? This person should not have an account. And so to sum it all up, though, the ending of it was this past October. I got a text from my cousin Barbara saying, I don't know if you knew this or not, but your uncle passed away. So he did pass away in October, and I wept. I wept for him a lot because I did love him. He was my uncle, and there was a lot of times where he was, before all this happened, he was so goofy and so loving and so wonderful to me. And he was a big goofball. And he loved the Three Stooges, and he ate he ate spaghetti with just butter and Parmesan cheese. And I thought that was weird. But I really, still to this day, I love him. I love him. I love him, but I could not have a relationship. I couldn't have a relationship with him,
Yeah.
and people would be like, well, you got to forget. I'm like, I forgave him. That was done. I forgave him when everything happened, when everything went down when I was 20. But
Yeah.
I could not have that, you know, I visited in jail those times, but that was it. I couldn't sit down and have dinner and break bread. It just
Yeah.
couldn't happen. And some of my relatives understood, and some of them were confused. They were like, "Why?" It's like, dude, you know what he did to me. And some of my relatives were like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." I'm like, well, I didn't. I still think every day it's a part of our lives every single day, sadly.
There's a gentleman who here he's written he's saying thank you. It's a little long, that's why I can't post it, but apparently his family punished him for speaking out, and he says he's
Oh,
still here and thank you that you're still here. But
oh,
that is very common where somebody does not believe you, and I think that was maybe part of the reason why I never shared it with anybody until I was in my late 40s.
yeah.
And you
Ugh,
know I think that comes with a level of the ability to have compassion. Some people just don't have a level of compassion that they can understand.
yeah,
Their view of the world is their way of seeing it, and that's it.
yeah.
And it's nothing to, unfortunately, nothing to do with us. And you know we just got to be happy for ourselves.
We
That's
do.
incredible
Yeah.
story to share with me and the viewers. And I want to tell you, Mike, when you started sharing, on my poster I put possible trigger warning. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I had to brace myself because being 56 now and hearing someone else's story and then going back in my memory and thinking about my own story, it does, there's that little bit in the back of your head going, I remember this, I remember this.
Yeah.
And it does trigger. So you know I'm grateful that you share because it's important to share, but I also want viewers to understand that if you're feeling triggered, you're having an anxiety, talk to somebody because it's very important. And I hope that you will do some self-care, Mike, after sharing with me today.
I'll be what?
Do some self-care,
Oh,
like
yes.
myself.
Yes.
I will go away after doing this podcast. I won't go sit and think about the past because
No.
um, it's just not mentally healthy to sit there and think relive that again and again. That's
No.
how the trauma stay within us, right?
Yeah.
So you know being a female and being sexually abused by family members, so I had 3 family members abuse me.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I always try to wrap my head around why there's sexual abuse.
Yeah.
Not being specific to men or women, but why is there rape? Why is there incest? Why is this happening to us? And I looked up some statistics, and it says uh, predators choose to rape both gay or straight men because rape is an act of aggression and domination, not a sexual desire.
Yeah.
All right. Did your uncle ever apologize to you?
No.
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 So did you ever feel that he ever did that, thought that he did anything wrong to yourself and other people?
Um, you know what? I don't know. Oh, Uncle Danny, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. He's amazing, and he's in Georgia, and I called him probably first when it all happened, and he was just so infuriated, and he's just like, I'm gonna do a southern accent. Michael, I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna kill. Sorry, Danny, that was um he was so angry because he Danny went and he was in the armed services. He's just such an amazing, amazing human being. And I just love him so much. And he really looked out for me and had my back. And yeah, and he wanted to kill him. He was just like, I just can't believe that this happened. And it was just, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I really thank you, Danny, for your like always, always,
Yes. Thank you for
always.
joining us.
Yeah.
It's a,
So I don't think, you know what? I mean, I think there was one conversation we had, and I said to him, I said, what happened, dude? I'm like, and he said I effed up. He's like, I fucked up. I'm like, yeah, you did. And I think it was like that weird in between place where I couldn't say, "Are you sorry?" Are you know what I mean? I didn't have that courage yet. It was in the very beginning of it when he
Yeah.
went to prison. And if I was what I am now, I would have been like, "Well, are you sorry? Are you never apologized?" And I mean, not even an "I am sorry" card, nothing. It's like
Yeah.
nothing. But I feel like I feel like he was though. I do feel like because I I knew his heart before everything happened, and again, he was a sweet, goofy, funny guy, and I feel in my heart that he did regret it, and he was sorry about it, and that's but he moved on.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I go back and look at what you just shared, and I touch base on a couple of things that I can compare to with your um, what you went through and what you experienced. One, you touched on the basis of you spoke up at that moment because you wanted them to believe this other person that he's been charged with molesting.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for doing that. You can't imagine how that makes me happy because I never did that. I never did that. I never spoke up. I never told anyone until um, he was dead. One of them was dead, my father, and
Mhm.
then my the other thing, he went on to have more children, and I had children, and a lot of circumstances of all around um, not being able to speak up. It's
Yeah.
so like you had the threat about him killing your mom.
Yep.
Mine was violence. Like my perpetrators, promised violence, and received a lot of violence because of it. And I kept quiet because I didn't want any beatings,
Yeah.
right? He never threatened to hurt anyone else. It was just he was hurting me. And I thought if I just kept this a secret, he would eventually stop. And but when I did speak up the very first time to my ex-husband, he's the one who's put a stop to everything. And it was like a weight off my shoulders, but my parents, all of them went to their graves. I say all of them because I was adopted. So all of them went to their graves not knowing that I was sexually abused by my adopted family.
Mhm.
And I he went on to have children in his late 60s. And I have no idea if my lack of speaking up has affected their lives. And so any viewer that has what would you suggest to a viewer that's watching how to find the courage to speak up? Like how did you was it a moment of courage that you had, or was it more based on you really wanted this not to happen anymore to anyone else?
It was probably both. It was like I felt this adrenaline, like because
Yeah.
like literally it was
Was it
like
was it rage?
that my grandmother was saying, he would never do that. My grandfather was saying, of course he would never do that. My cousin, they were all like, he would never do that. That would never. And like I kept hearing these people saying he would never do it. He would never do it. And it just like bubbled up inside of me. And I snapped and I just
Yeah.
said, yes, he would because he did it to me. And they were just like, what? It was just nobody could believe that it was that was truth. It was like, yeah, no, it's yeah. I think it was definitely I was so angry that he did it to another child. I was so angry. And I've worked with autistic children for many years. Actually, when I was in college, I worked with autistic children all the time. So it was interesting because I just come out of college and then I'm hearing this story. And
Yeah.
B, it was like, you know what? I'm an adult now. He's not going to kill my mother because I'm not going to let him. And I'm not going to let him hurt my Nana. So, and the dog
Mhm.
was already gone. So, but it was a combination of the adrenaline and, just, I was just like, no, 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 enough. It's not, it's no, that is who he is. He is the monster that they're saying he is. Um, what I would say to anyone who's listening who has gone through this, again, just find one person, start with one person you can trust with your
Yeah.
story and just confide in them, because that's all it takes is one person. And if that's a therapist, then great. I personally have never been to therapy. I've done Reiki therapy and massage therapy, but I've never gone to therapy for this. Honestly,
Yeah.
God, Jesus, that was my
You
therapy.
had a higher power to rely
I
on.
absolutely, absolutely. I know that
Yeah.
Jesus watches over me. I know that God watches over me. I know that my ancestors that passed away before, I know that they watch over me. Um, but I think it's so important to find one person that you trust and that will listen to you and that will support you. And
Judge you.
exactly, not judge you, because it really, again, it's really, it's you it's a, such a it's I think, I feel like it's one of the most vulnerable places, whether you're a man or a woman, when
Yeah.
this has happened to you, when you've been molested, when you've been raped, when you've been in this situation. It's one of the most vulnerable things that you can talk about, because it's
Yeah.
embarrassing. And I know I was a child, there was nothing I could really do about it, but it's still embarrassing. And yeah,
Yeah.
that that's
Well,
my
it
advice.
says yeah, that
Mhm.
is excellent advice. Um, when I eventually got around to sharing with uh, with my therapist, um, it seems so strange to be like reliving that at that age, like in my 40s. I shared it with partners, but I wouldn't share it with friends. Like when I was in relationships, I shared it with every man that I was in a relationship, and I shared it with, well, I'm bi, so I shared it with my female partners as well. And everyone I spoke to didn't disbelieve me. Um, they were very, it was something that happened to me and they were accepting of it. And I didn't relive it over and over, like, drag it, but it affected me so profoundly. It affected my ability to have self-confidence, self-esteem. Oh my God, it drastically affected my ability to have relationships. I could not
Y-
maintain a
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
Did it affect you that way as well?
It did, until, this is interesting, because it did until I spoke up.
Yeah.
When I spoke, because I knew, and people always go, no, you didn't. I knew I was gay when I was 3. I had those feelings. So it wasn't like what he did to me didn't make me gay. Not growing up with my dad didn't make me gay. It was a part of me. I knew when I
It's
was
just
3
who you are.
that I was attracted. I was definitely more attracted to, boys and men, when boys, Cooper. What was that kid's name from the Little Rascals? The little tough guy, you know. So, but I didn't pursue that, or look into that until after I came out of the sexual abuse closet, when I did speak up when I was 20.
Yeah.
Then I was okay to um, look into possible relationships with men. And I've had 3 really beautiful ones. I'm in one now, it's 20 years now. Um, but I think speaking up cleared that block. Wow, I just like got that
Yes.
right now. Look at you. You're like making me see things that I hadn't seen before. Yeah, that
I
it cleared the
have a
path.
habit of doing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Annette.
Welcome.
Your miracle,
Yeah,
Annette.
no, I had lots of therapy. Your uncle shared something again. He says, share this podcast to the world. You both illustrate the power of communication, and hopefully this because a tool for others, hopefully becomes a tool for others to use.
Oh,
Absolutely. I
I
mean,
love.
ending the stigma around mental illness is
Yes.
the sexual abuse part is
Yes.
so affects
Yeah.
mental illness so much.
It just,
Um,
it's sad because like I have a lot of friends like from elementary school and junior high and high school. But growing up, I was really afraid to talk to people. And
yeah,
that was
me too.
one of the main reasons because I didn't want to say something in acts, you know what I mean? By act, I didn't want something to slip. It's like, yeah, my uncle be because again, it really was for me all about keeping my mother safe and my nana safe. That
Yeah.
really all it was for me was
I
keeping
I
them
could
safe.
not imagine having that thread over my head like that as a child. That's so traumatic.
Gabby wants
Hello.
to say hi. Gabby, say hi.
Hi. he's
Gabby,
he's
say
so cute.
hi.
He's not even looking at the camera.
He's not. Gabby, look at the camera right there. Look,
Yeah.
there you go. Ah, mwah.
One of our viewers on Facebook, I don't know if you know him. His name is Mark Denton.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Sounds, yeah.
he's sharing a little bit about trusting his family and calling him a liar. It's a very long thing, so I can't really post it. But he's tried and tried to get justice, but obviously it failed,
Yeah.
and it's shadowed me all my life. I think it's time to try again. You
Yes.
know,
Mark, yes, yes.
he says, hi, you may
Don't give
know
up.
me via Adam. Oh, okay. So, I would suggest, Mark, uh, maybe we can research somehow
What
to get his story. Like,
Allison, I'll connect you, Annette, and your listeners with Allison Ongram because this is
okay,
what she does from Little House on the Prairie.
okay,
She's an advocate for children who have been sexually abused. She goes out and she fights it. She goes out and she stands up for them. She goes out and gets justice. That's what she does. She's very so amazing. I met her I would say almost 30 years ago when I first moved out
yeah,
here. Um, and she's a powerful, powerful advocate of that. And she went through it as a child actor, and she stands up for other people who are going through it. So I'm gonna reach out to her and just get her
okay,
the name of the charity, the name, that because yeah, Mark, you're not alone. You're not alone. I'm here. I'm here for you. And,
yeah.
and that's here for you. We're here for you because none of us should be alone. None of us should be
I, I
alone.
want to I want to share something with our viewer, with Mark. Um, and I please don't take this the wrong way, because each of us are on our own path and our own journey. So my experience and your experience vary quite a bit, because when I went through therapy, um, my therapist said to me, okay, you have two choices. You can pursue criminal charges against your abusers, right? Or you can heal your traumas and let it go. And for myself, I had a legal background. I used to be a paralegal.
Okay.
And I remember all the BS that you have to go through with the justice system, right? And it's just the system. There is, for me, I always felt that there was really no justice per se. So when I sat down with myself and I thought about what my therapist had told me about whether to pursue my, taking my family to court or letting it go, I went the
Right.
path of letting it go because I did not want to relive it. I did not want to keep feeling that anger and that hatred. I wanted to be able to forgive them. I wanted to be able to forgive myself.
Hmm.
And it was, for me, there's parts I regret not pursuing that because I don't know what's happened to other people, like my half siblings that, my father had with another lady longer down the road, but I can't also blame myself for that because I'm not,
Right.
I'm not responsible for his actions.
No, no.
So, you know, so with that said, I would love to know, maybe Mark really needs this justice, even though he says now that he's the person who did it is 97 years old and the cops won't touch him. But maybe we'll give Mark peace of mind. So Allison, you said, right? Her name is?
Allison. Yeah.
Yeah, can help him find his peace of mind. I found mine through letting go. You found yours through speaking out. So we each have our own personal destiny about how to go about these, what happened to us, how to process it, right? That's very important for our viewers to understand.
Well, and I wonder too if, now that I think about it, if I would have ever spoken up if he hadn't done it to somebody else. That really, that for me was the trigger that pulled, that
Yeah.
he molested a, not allegedly, because he got, he was whatever they call it, not committed, but it was
Convicted.
convicted. Thank you.
Right.
I'm getting old. I'm 57. I'm older than I. I don't know if I would have ever said anything. Because I had already purposely in my mind as a Christian just forgiven him and
Yeah.
let it go. But I didn't forget. I mean, I still see in my mind what I went through with him. But I don't
Well,
know if I spoke up.
if I had had the courage to speak up when I was younger, and I would have done it. But
Yeah.
for me, the I was so focused on not thinking about the past that I was always in the future. Oh, I better
Right.
keep working.
Right.
Oh, I got to have a family. Oh, I got to get a house. I kept myself so busy that I didn't think about my past, but it
Yeah.
didn't go away. Just burying it like that, it didn't go away. So being traumatized and learning that I had post-traumatic stress disorder from it so many years later and having a total
Yeah.
mental burnout, like completely uh homeless on the street, no money, no work, no family. It took me to get that far down to finally speak up and get help.
Wow.
And I hope viewers don't like wait like I did until you have a mental breakdown where you're like that, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard. It's we're so individually affected by our sexual abuse.
Yeah.
It
And
says that, yeah,
and
it says
and
that every 68 seconds an American is sexually assaulted.
yeah. And I didn't
Like,
even tell you about the one that happened to me as an adult on a
oh,
job. On
yes,
a
and that I
I
also
used
had
to,
pulled that up too. We're gonna have a second show, you know this.
yeah, about the Grinch, that one?
No. Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah.
What was it? A guy portraying
No,
in a
so I
costume?
I do the Grinch for holiday parties, and we can talk about it
Okay.
more at length in another show and stuff, but I was hired by a very well-known corporation for their Christmas party, and the girl that hired me was 24, and, I was resting in the room, the hotel room in between, and she came in and she was drunk and she straddled me and started humping me as I was trying to relax as the Grinch. And I was like, yeah, my husband was in the room with me. He was like, yeah, that's not appropriate. And She's like, I don't care. I just saw my husband down in another room effing my coworker, and she was all upset.
Um,
And I'm like, you need to get off and not do this. And then I go out on the dance floor, and I'm dancing with all the people at her company, and she comes up and she puts her hand down into my outfit and squeezes my genitalia,
that's
and
sexual
all the
assault.
dance in front of it. Oh yeah, yeah. And there was a case, and we'll talk about that another time. The
Yeah.
Grinch who got
Well,
Grinch. Yeah,
Adam says, I have a question. Would you come back at some point to talk about men's mental health?
absolutely. Yes,
Awesome.
I would be honored to.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you could be on each one of our shows and you would have great points to talk about. Um,
I just
your
I need
uncle
to stop.
says,
Oh, I love my uncle.
I
So,
agree completely with you, Annette, for looking to within yourself to soothe your soul, our legal system. Well, I'm Canadian, and I know how the Canadian legal system is, but
yeah.
American is I just have the television to refer to. But um, yeah, Mark has mentioned that he had a meltdown and got arrested at gunpoint thanks to an angry friend who he just told about it. You know, it's there needs to be
Wow.
where we can reach out and like I found our family and our friends sometimes can be more judgmental than a stranger,
Yeah.
you know?
There's
So,
places to call. There are one people you can call, like the hotlines, and just talk to
yeah.
them about it. Because I'm telling you, once you talk about it, I got to tell you, and Danny, will attest to this. I called him right after because he was down in Georgia, and when it all came, when the hit the fan, um, I called him immediately because he was the one relative who was very strong. He's very grounded, very Christian minded, very centered and stuff. And I called him right away, and I was very fortunate to have him because my mother didn't know what to do. She was like, what?" And and but everyone did believe me, because they did turn their back on the other uncle when he went to court, and no one fought for him because he did it to me. It's like,
Oh, yeah. It's
you
like
know,
I'm so
ay,
happy that you spoke
ay.
up. I
Yeah,
want to show Mark's last comment here. Yes, I know that now we have a wonderful organization in Plymouth, UK, Operation Emotion, which helps male survivors.
oh, that's
So
fantastic.
I wanted to show that so other people
God,
watching can learn that. So this is in the UK.
we
That's
need that
great to know.
more. Because men just get so embarrassed, and it is embarrassing. It's like it's like it's demeaning, it's embarrassing, it's shameful, it's dirty. It's just disgusting and gross. And I really wish that people would speak up more about it. I think in America, there's each state has their own, like, grandfather laws or whatever they call that. You can only do it a statute of limitations or something. I don't know. I think some states are like 20 years, I think, for children, child
Yeah.
abuse. So, and I just don't think there should be a limit to it because, you know, some people really don't have the courage or the wherewithal to speak out until they're older.
Yeah.
They've suppressed it. I didn't suppress it. I saw it all the time. So I wish I could have suppressed it.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's strange the mind of a perpetrator, okay? Like my brother, for example. I was out with him and my uh, ex-husband. He was the boyfriend at the time. And we're sitting in a bar together. And my boyfriend, my ex-husband, ex-husband went to the bathroom. And my brother turns to me and he says, with a really quizzling, like puzzling look on his face, and says to me, "Well, if things ever don't work out with you and Renardo, would you come back with me? And I went, what do you mean, would I come back with you? What are you talking about? There was never an us. You were my brother. You molested me. Like, what is in your head? Why are you thinking that we were a relationship, like a couple? And it just blew me away. Like,
Wow.
and
Wow.
he did the same thing. That's another thing that touched base with you on that is when you said your uncle reached out to you on Facebook and tried to communicate with you. My brother has done the same, and I totally like. He's never, since I turned my mind towards that I'm never going to have a relationship with him again.
Yeah.
I don't answer any messages. He has friends message me to try to get in touch with me. And it's been years now that he hasn't, but I refuse. Absolutely refuse to have anything to do with him.
That's disgusting. That's just, oh my God.
It's the brain, the mind of a perpetrator is a very dark
They
place.
don't see it. They
Very
don't,
they're they're mentally ill,
yeah. Yeah.
right? When my therapist told me, Annette, you need to forgive these people because they were ill and they are ill, right? And I think that's overlooked a lot when we talk about sexual abuse is that a sexual abuser, anybody that wants to harm anyone, has a mental health issue. In my books, I'm sorry.
Well, I think that forgiveness is definitely the key to start the healing process. We never forget, but forgiving is like it's really it's kind of selfish. It's about us because if we
Yes,
don't
it
forgive,
is.
they say that old saying like if you don't forgive someone, you're literally carrying them around on your back all the time. And it just
Yes.
gets heavier and heavier and heavier. So the first step is forgiving,
Yeah.
and you don't and you let it go. It's like that's impossible. I'm sorry. I know people, but it's like you don't focus on it like 24 hours a day, but you
Yeah.
start with forgiveness. But
Right.
I can never forget what he did to me. And
No, I could never
I
forget
kept
either.
getting friend requests and I kept blocking him because Facebook did nothing. And I had people say, well, you need to sue Facebook because they allowed this perpetrator to continue to be in your life. And I showed them proof that he was a felon and that he was a child. I showed them the court documents and they're like, oh, well, what are we going to do? It's like you
Well,
can
you can stop using
block him
Facebook.
on Facebook,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's just, but I think people need to start with forgiveness and then talk to somebody, even if it's a line like a uh, private line to like call and just talk about it to
yeah,
release it and stuff. And yeah, because that's for me. I'm telling you, that changed everything. That changed everything for me.
yeah.
And I
It
was
did
very
for me. It started the path of healing when I started the forgiving.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of angry letters I had to write. I never sent them. I actually still have them, but the getting it out,
Yep,
like
yep,
trauma is trapped in your body until you get it out. I think that's the letting go part. It's not
yes,
the forgetting because our memories are our memories and we'll always have our
yep,
memories.
yep.
But the letting go part is the letting go of the hatred and the anger and
Exactly.
the victim. I was a victim.
Well,
Like I kept playing the victim forever.
and for me, it's until I spoke up, it was all about fear. Like there
Yeah,
wasn't hatred. I didn't hate my uncle. I still love him to this day. He's gone. I still love him. I've had nothing but love for him. Um,
yeah,
but I was terrified. I was fearful of him
yeah,
and what he could do in my life. And then after it happened, it was I felt compassion for him and I felt bad for him and I felt happy that he got justice and in my mind I'm thinking maybe this will help him and we joked about this earlier, and we talked about this like during the week. But he got out of jail, and he had this girlfriend, I guess, that he met while he was in prison. I don't know. And they went and tried to rob a bank. And then he
Oh,
went back to jail for like, I think 2 years, 2 or 3 years. I'm like, dude, come on. You just
yeah,
got out. It's like, come on, man. But I've never I can honestly say I've never once hated him. I was angry at him. I was afraid of him. I felt bad for him, and I had compassion for him. Those are the four
yeah,
emotions I had for him, but I never hated him once, because I also knew, not only until once I spoke out, I did realize that there was something wrong up there,
yeah,
and but it just, there was something going on, and he had a sick mind to
yeah.
want to do that to an autistic child, and to me,
Any child.
it's like, oh my god. I just, yeah, and my friend who was 13, she was
Well,
13 at the time, so
I want to congratulate you and thank you profusely for coming on today, Mike. In closing, I just want to add one little last tidbit so viewers are educated about this stuff. It says a quarter of male victims of sexual assault are under 10 years of age. And I think you could say
yeah,
that's pretty much, I didn't look up the female. I was trying to stick with the male aspect, but it's probably a lot higher for women. I don't know. But
yeah,
it says, according to studies, an estimated total of 28% of male victims of sexual assault in the US will have experienced their first assault at 10 years of age or younger. And you said to
yeah.
yourself, that told us that you were 7 to 9, right? Mine
7
was
to 9.
5 to 14. Yeah, mine was from 5 years of age to 14 years of age. So that's a lot of trauma just between two
Yeah, yeah,
people. And there's Mark here, and other people, lots of other viewers, and hundreds and millions of other people that are affected. And,
yeah.
um, you know, thank you for coming on, Mike. Tell us,
Absolutely.
if people want to reach out and talk to you, where can they find you? Do you have a web page? Do you have a email you want to share? Anything like that? You can type it in comments
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. Absolutely. They can, on Instagram, I am Miracle Mike is my Instagram, and 99 Dino Dogs with a Z.
Okay.
Those are my two Instagrams there, and if they want to email me at all, it's I am Miracle Mike LA at gmail.com.
Nice.
That's
And this
my
is
my
also on replay. So if you didn't catch it, you can listen to this again. And
yeah.
please share, 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 and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to the Mental Health Warriors. Last comment, Madam says he'd love to talk to you about mental health via LGBT community. Excellent, excellent idea,
Absolutely.
Adam.
I'm in.
Yeah, I'm
Thank you, Ed.
into because we're both in that park.
Oh yeah, because that's another interesting story. But yeah, we'll talk
Oh
about
yeah,
that.
it could be another show. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Thank you so much for having
would
me.
you
I
like to
really appreciate it.
say anything else in closing, Mike?
Just just please, I encourage you all, talk to someone. Please, whether it's anonymously, whether it's me or Annette or Adam, someone, reach out and speak to someone, and know that you are not alone. I felt alone. I felt
Yeah,
terrifyingly alone, like I was in an abyss and there was no way out. And fortunately, now I have people around me, and I have wonderful friends, and I have wonderful family members that support me and love me, and they're there. And now I've created great things because of all of it. In spite of all of it, I've gone on to have a pretty wonderful life. And
yeah.
I think that has
Ditto.
to do with speaking out.
Yeah,
Speaking out and
yeah.
being
We're
standing up and being courageous.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
sharing that. You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
Right.
Thank you everyone for
You
joining us
again.
today. Yes, we'll come back on together and do a show again in the future.
Yay.
All
Mwah.
right. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Like the videos and let people know we're out here fighting and ending the stigma around mental illness. And we're helping sexual abuse survivors and every area that deals with mental health. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.